Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Regal podcast with me, Jordan Lewis. Today, I'm joined by Sasha Herman. So, first of all, hello, Sasha. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Jordan. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I appreciate you inviting me. I'm looking forward to having a bit of a chit chat with you and we listeners.
Thank you for coming. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. So, would you like to start with a brief introduction to who you are and what you do?
Yes, my name's Sasha. I'm from Hertfordshire. I help people that are new to property investing get into property investing and create wealth using very little of their own money and without having to own any properties as well. So I help people in different ways. I work as a relocation agent. So I work with large corporate and business companies to help accommodate their employees, as I own a luxury rental service accommodation business. And I work with landlords to help rent their properties if they're struggling with renting their properties, or they're struggling with their tenants or getting rent from their tenants, or just management in general. I help them create more of an income than they would if they were using it as buy-to-let. So £1,000+ a month with no hassles, no voids, and just basically easy life. And I help with people that are new to property. Like I said, I teach them what I do to get the good cash flow, but at a low entry level.
That sounds fantastic. Definitely something that would appeal to a lot of people, I know, including myself. So
yeah,
it sounds really good. You're also a TV presenter for a company called Zorzor. Is that correct?
Yes, I work for a couple of companies. I'm freelance, so I work for Zorzor with regards to the online shopping space, and I work for a local TV channel as well, doing their entertainment and their news. And they're currently doing a new property channel as well, so I work with them also, which I've been doing for quite a few years now.
Sounds fantastic. How are you finding that so far?
Oh, I love it. Yeah, I love it. I've been in kind of the hosting and presenting space a long time, like for about 10, 15 years. So yeah, I really enjoy it. And I like communicating to the audience and, educating people on various different topics, and just having fun.
Well, fantastic. That's what you hear on the podcast for today.
Yeah.
Obviously with Zorzor then, as a TV presenter, obviously you present and showcase various goods, luxury goods, some non-luxury goods.
Yes.
I know that for many, and I know when I first started recording podcasts and content for my feed, it's very, very difficult, very challenging, very nerve-wracking to record a video for the first time, to read through a script if you have one, or just come up with something ad hoc. So how did you prepare yourself mentally and potentially physically before you hit record for your TV presenting?
Oh, that's a good question. You're right. Presenting can be absolutely nerve-wracking. It can be traumatizing for some people. I mean, some people fear public speaking or speaking on camera more than death itself. But I mean, there are a few things that you can do to help prepare, to be confident and to be relaxed before going on camera. I mean, obviously it does take practice. You're not just going to jump up there and, be amazing straight away. I mean, you might be, it depends on how confident you are in general. But a couple of things I do when I'm presenting just beforehand to get myself in the right headspace and physically as well in the right energy. It's important to be in good voice, have good voice form. So, as I've got here, I always have like a pint of water when I wake up, and I'll have a glass of water just before I start. And I'll always have it throughout as well. So you're dehydrated and you're not kind of swallowing all the time, and you want to feel like your throat is in good form. So that's something that I'll do. With regards to scripts, it's important to know what you're talking about, to know your product. So if I've got a script, I'll make sure that I'll read through it. Whatever time I've got, I can read scripts quite quickly, whether it's memorizing them or doing them on auto cue. I make sure that I can pronounce everything and that my diction is good, because there's nothing worse than not knowing what you're talking about and then saying something and it doesn't come out right. So making sure that I know the product. And also it's important to be passionate about what you're talking about as well, to really kind of know the product inside and out so you can really describe it well to the audience. With regards to kind of a physical state and a mental state, it's important to get yourself in good energy and have a good headspace, be energetic. So make sure you've eaten, you've had water. Two things that I do that really help, whether I'm doing a Zoom call, whether I'm going on camera for a TV segment, or whether it's a podcast or whatever it is on camera, even if it's just a live, I put on my favorite song beforehand, something that uplifts me, that makes me feel good, the sort of song that will just get you on that dance floor as soon as you hear it. I play that for a couple of minutes. For me personally, it's Earth, Wind and Fire, September. I don't know if you might be too young to know that, but that's one of my favorites. And then I do 10 jumping jacks. Swear down, this is what I do. Doesn't matter where I am. I'll go into the hallway or whatever, just play it on my phone, just to get myself upbeat and energized. And the biggest thing that I would recommend for anybody, probably the most important thing, is make sure you're smiling before you press that record button. So yeah, that's my kind of pre-presenting practice, as it were.
They all sound fantastic, and I'm definitely a big advocate of staying hydrated, being high energy, all this sort of good stuff. And I follow a lot of that while I'm actually recording this podcast now, and with my own content on my Instagram.
Yes, it is very important.
It is essential, because at the end of the day, like when I wasn't doing these things, I mean, if you look at my video content, even my podcast, when I first started, I was very monotone, flat, dry, I didn't have much energy. And at the end of the day, it came through in the content and nobody really engaged with it. Whereas now I'm able to get into that state.
And I think a lot of that is because when people are nervous, they try and pretend to be someone that they're not. And I think it's really important to just be you, just be authentic you, just show your personality, because people can see through you otherwise. If you're on a podcast and, like you say, if you're monotone, it's generally because either you're not passionate about what you're talking about, or you're nervous, or you just don't really want to be there. So if you just come on and you're energized and you're in a good headspace and you're really looking forward to what you're going to talk about, that is going to come through to your audience, and you're going to feel good talking about it as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about being the best version of you, not the best version of someone else, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Because people aren't stupid. They can see through a facade. They can see if you're faking, trying to be somebody you're not, whether it's on audio or whether it's on camera.
Yeah, absolutely. How did you learn that lesson then? How did you learn that it's more important to be the best version of yourself? Because so many people are, even if they kind of consciously know it, they're so terrified of showing their true selves in fear of being, I don't know, ridiculed or kind of ostracized online. So how did you learn that?
To be honest, I mean, that's a really good question. And I think it just comes with a lot of practice. Keep talking to people and seeing what the people respond to. And you'll find that if you're going as a person that you're not, especially if it's people that know you and you're trying to perceive yourself as somebody that you're not, that is just going to come across as very fake, and people are not going to respond to that well. But if you are just genuinely yourself, whether you're a really high energy, boisterous person like a puppy, or whether you're kind of serious and corporate, whoever you genuinely are, people will respond to. Not everybody's going to be like you. You're not going to be everybody's cup of tea, and that's okay. But the people that do respond to you well and do like what you're giving and what you're offering as you, they're your people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's kind of the power of building a personal brand and being authentic and being you is, sure, there's going to be loads of people that don't like you. At the end of the day, it's like friends, it's like relationships.
Yeah, definitely.
There'll be loads of people that don't. But there's going to be a large majority that either do like you, or at least a minority that do like you and resonate with you and who you are really well. And the best part is it won't feel like work. Like me talking to you now doesn't feel like work, because I'm just being me. We're just having a good conversation.
Yeah.
Whereas if I was trying to be somebody that I'm not, it would be draining.
Yeah, definitely. And the same with me. If I'm trying to pretend to be someone that I'm not, or pretend to be, way more successful than I am, or earning like millions of pounds more than I am, it's people can see that. You can find out all these things. So I think it's just so important just to be you, no matter who you are, no matter what that means to you, just
Yeah, absolutely agree. Would you say then that you are more introverted or extroverted?
Oh, do you know what? I'm probably a little bit of both.
Mm,
I think when it comes to my passion, which is presenting and being on camera and communicating with people, I'm probably more of an extrovert
mhm.
because that's what I do and that's what I enjoy. But in different situations, say when I'm with friends or out for dinner or something like that, I can be a little bit introverted. There is a shyness to me as well as the extrovert that comes out. And that's not saying that I'm not being real. It just depends on the situation I'm in.
Yeah,
So yeah, I guess I don't think people can be extroverted or introverted all the time. You
agreed.
know, I don't think that's possible. I think you can have two different sides to you. So I'm not going to be extroverted all the time, even when I'm talking to different people. You've got to have a bit of that down energy as well as the up energy. So
Yeah,
yeah, I'd say a bit of both, if I'm
yeah,
honest.
yeah, absolutely. I think most people are both. It's just obviously kind of more extroverted or more introverted, generally speaking. Like I'm more extroverted, but then
Yeah,
like you, there are some days where I'm really not in the mood to talk to people. If I do, I just feel more drained.
yeah,
Whereas other days like today, it's like the more people I talk to, the more energy I get. So therefore,
yeah.
kind of generally more
And
extroverted.
I
Sorry.
think because I'm generally a very friendly person, I'm very sociable, and I like people and I like listening to people's stories. That probably comes across as extroverted, but really that's just my personality, and it always has been.
Yeah, that's fair. That's good. But do you think then it helps you with your video presenting, whether it's on a podcast or on your video presenting freelance work? Do you think it helps you to be more extroverted, or do you think it's just as doable and possible for an introvert?
I think it depends who your audience is, and I think it depends what you're talking about because your audience is everybody. Like I said, they're going to respond to whatever they want to respond to.
Yeah,
And introverts will probably respond better to introverts,
yeah,
extroverts will probably respond better to extroverts.
yeah, very true.
People tend to be attracted to their sort of people that are very similar to them. That's what I find anyway.
Yeah,
Because I'm such a social, bubbly person, I'm normally attracted to social, bubbly people that I can be inspired by and learn from, and people that excite me. Do you know what I mean? That sort
yeah,
of thing.
yeah. I get you completely. So, key lesson here then is obviously bring that energy, be yourself, and you will attract those that are just like you.
Yeah, exactly. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Okay, fantastic. I will move on to the next question then. So, obviously, as you said at the very beginning, you've now moved into property. I'm
Yes.
curious, what made you move into this industry?
Wow. Well, oh, do you want the short story or the long story? Believe it or not, being in property was not my lifelong ambition. I actually wanted to be a singer. Like I said, I was in entertainment and performing for a long time. So I bought my first property in 2008 as a residential home. And I had a bit of financial difficulty, and I decided that I didn't want to pay all my own bills and I didn't want to pay my mortgage. So, being from the entertainment background, I decided I'd wanted for a long time to work abroad and to work on ships. So, that's what I decided to do. I decided to rent out my property, have somebody else pay all my bills, and go and travel around the world. And I did that for about 10 years.
Mhm.
Um, Unfortunately, a few things changed personally. My mum got very sick. Um, she had a cancer scare. So I came home. And at the time, I wanted to be a singer. That was like my biggest passion in life. It probably still is a big passion, if I'm honest. Um, but I'd set up like a cabaret. I had a live band. I had my own show set. But then when I got that news that my mum was ill, I just kind of packed it all in and came home because your family is the most important thing. So all that got put on a back burner. I didn't feel like singing anymore. So I had to get a job. I got a job at home
Mhm.
because I wasn't earning great money in entertainment. I was just starting out, probably in my early 20s. And I didn't care that I wasn't earning good money because I absolutely loved what I did. I enjoyed the lifestyle of being in entertainment, singing, dancing. It was my dream. So when I came home, I needed to get a job because I wasn't really saving. I don't save much. I'm very good at spending. That has changed now, having grown up. But yes, I came home. I worked in London, and I started working with a local TV network to work on some presenting things as well while I was at home. So I did some kind of news presenting, entertainment, and I had a very good rapport with the producer of the network. So we kind of stayed in touch and everything. About a year or so later, there was an opportunity for me to go back. My mum was in a better position. She was in remission, and we thought the cancer had gone and everything like that. She kept saying to me, "Why don't you go back on ships? Why don't you go back abroad? This is what I loved." So I'd got a job as an entertainer on cruise ships. So I worked away for a couple of years, just abroad in different countries. Then I moved into cruise ships as an entertainer, but then I still wasn't earning enough money. And then I came back home and got a job on land. So then, when I thought everything was okay at home, I decided to go back. But this time, because of the situation that I was in the first time around with my mum getting sick, I knew that if that was to happen again, I did not want to be in a position where I would need to go and work again. I wanted to be in a position where I had money set aside so I could be there and look after my mum, whatever those circumstances may bring. So I needed to find something that was going to bring that into my life to enable me to save. Now, bearing in mind, I wasn't not a saver. Like, whatever money came in, it went out because I was young, having fun. Someone else was paying my mortgage and all my bills. Yeah. So happy as Larry. But an opportunity came up for a luxury shopping presenter on cruise ships, which suited me down to the ground because it mixed the presenting with the travel. I took a risk because it was commission based. So I had no idea what I was going to earn.
Yeah.
I was very bad at the job. When I started, I'm talking terrible. And there was some amazing people in the company that were incredible presenters, incredible working with luxury brands, diamonds, gemstones. There was training, we got to go to Miami, we got to go to the New York Diamond District to learn about diamonds and gemstones. So I ended up getting in that luxury space, promoting and selling diamonds and gemstones. And I ended up earning a 6-figure income within the space of about 2 years. I did very, very well. I grew my way up that company. I became one of the top, sales and promoters in the company, being able to choose whatever ship I wanted, which was my goal for myself when I first started, because I was like, boy, am I rubbish at this. This is not going to happen again. And so I said to myself, right, I'm going to become the top presenter in this company going forward. And I pushed myself and pushed myself. I made a lot of money. But then my mum got sick again. It turned out she had stage 4 terminal cancer. So I came home again. And this time, in my head, I didn't think I'd be going back because the way things were, it was like a six to 8 month contract. I was away a lot and I couldn't do that anymore, not with my mum the way she was. However, this time I'd saved money. So I had money put aside. I had savings. I knew that I could stay at home with my mum. And to cut a long story short into the property side, slowly I went through those savings when I got home because I moved back into my flat. I started paying all my bills and everything. And I treated my mum to, holidays, and we went away and all the things I couldn't do when I was abroad. And then COVID hit. So there was no presenting. I hadn't been working for over a year. And I thought, wow, I need to do something. I need to replace this income that is slowly dwindling down to nothing, because I was looking after my mum and I was fine with that. But I needed to replace my income. So this producer that I've been working with in the TV show, I said to him, there's nothing on property within the channel. There's lots of entertainment and politics and this and that, but there's so many people that want to learn about property. So why don't you do something like that? Why don't you do a couple of episodes on property investing, how to get into the property market for first timers? I said, I can present that. But the only thing is, I didn't know that much about property at the time. Yes, I had my own place, but there was still a lot for me to learn. So I basically said, why don't you let me go and do some research in the property market and see, I'll educate myself, and then we'll come back and we'll do this channel. So longer story shorter now, I got educated in property. The presenting thing didn't happen because of COVID, but I got so educated and so involved in the property world that during COVID that I decided I was going to set up a property business. And I set up a short-term rental business, serviced accommodation, Airbnb for people that aren't in the property space and don't know the terminology. I set up an Airbnb business with luxury properties because I'd been in that space. I'd stayed in lots of really nice hotels, so I knew what people wanted when they stayed away. For corporate clients and business clients that were still working and needed a place to stay. That was in the middle of the pandemic. And luckily for me, it did very well. It's been thriving ever since. And I didn't need a lot of money to get set up. Unfortunately, I'd kind of gone through all my savings at that point, most of it. I had a little bit left, which was enough to invest and set up maybe 5 properties. So now, because people have seen kind of what I've done, now I'm kind of accidentally helping people to do the same as what I do. So that's my story of how I got into property.
Well, it sounds fantastic. You've definitely got a good reason to be in the industry. So it's not, you're not just here to like money grab or anything like that.
No,
You're here for a reason. So.
And this is the thing, like I was earning really good money for the first time in my life. And I never thought I could earn that sort of income. Little old me who was a performer and a singer on ships earning £500 a month, sunbathing on my days off. I just never thought I was capable of that. And when I realised that I thought, well, if I can do that on cruise ships, selling diamonds and gemstones, houses cost just as much. Why can't I do it in property as well? And I thought property has longevity. There's lots of avenues it can go down, and it's something that I can build as a sustainable career path on land, because now I needed to find something on land. So that's kind of how I pivoted from ships to property.
From ships to property. I like it. It's a very good story. So, so obviously you said that you're now working in serviced accommodation. For the benefit of everybody at home, would you like to just give a quick rundown of what serviced accommodation is and what is kind of included within that?
So serviced accommodation, basically I rent a property from a landlord through an agent or through the landlord themselves. Then I re-rent that property to business clients, corporate clients that are staying in the area for short-term or a long-term basis. So for people that are maybe looking for somewhere to stay if they're working, rather than getting a hotel where they would normally maybe only get a room and an ensuite, and then they've got to pay for their food and things like that, I offer accommodation which gives them everything they would have at home. It's like a home from home experience. So they would have a kitchen where they can cook. They have a lounge area where they can enjoy. They have parking, and they have things like, Netflix and things like that. So I basically provide a home from home experience for business clients, corporate clients, even, tourists and families that are going to be staying in the area. And that's known as serviced accommodation. When you rent from someone, then you re-rent it out, all under legal framework and everything like that. Because I know a lot of people, they think, subletting, it's illegal and things like that. If the landlord doesn't know you're doing it, yes, it's illegal. It's illegal, but I run it as a company, so it's 100% legal and authentic, and it's done through all the legal framework.
All above board. Okay, cool.
Yeah, all above board, completely.
Makes sense. Okay, cool. Does obviously, like as you just said, serviced accommodation is literally like everything included in one package.
Yeah.
Does that kind of add a lot more work for you to then manage and handle and keep track of all of that, or?
I guess at the beginning, I need to, obviously, like I said, I got educated, so I knew what I needed to do to set the process up. But it's basically like being at home. That's the way I see it, because I do it from a luxury perspective. So I want to put myself in the guest's shoes. So I would stay at the property that I'm going to be renting out as a guest, as if I was a guest, and think, okay, what do I need? What do I need to cook? What do I need? So I provide toiletries and, a full equipped kitchen. And I just think, what would someone need if they're staying at a property away from home? It could be up to 6 months, so they need to have those things that are going to keep them there long term. So once it's all in place in the beginning, then it's just a matter of keeping it maintained. I have a really good cleaning team, and it gets professionally cleaned once a week, and things get checked, and then I just buy things and add things. But pretty much it's just set it up and then just maintain it as things go along. But once it's set up, it's pretty easy to kind of rinse and repeat.
Yeah, fair enough then. So is it almost like a passive income, or mostly passive income now?
Do you know what? I know a lot of people would say it's a passive income, and it can be. Once you're set up and you're really good at what you're doing, and you've got all your systems and your operations in place, which I'm pretty much down with now, you can make it a passive income. But it is still work right at the beginning, because it's not completely hands off. It can be if you want to outsource all the day-to-day stuff to a management agent or to a virtual assistant that deals with all of that. It can be passive, but then you're losing obviously some of your profits, but then you've got your time back. But if, like me, I had so much time, we were in the middle of a pandemic, I couldn't do viewings, I couldn't do anything. So I had all the time to do the setup and to make sure I had my systems, my operations and things in place, to get the foundations down. And then I knew once I had it running for 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, and I knew where I was at, then I could just rinse and repeat that process with other landlords to help them make more money from their properties and provide accommodation for people looking, whilst helping new property investors to implement the same strategy using hardly any money.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you. How much money, if you don't mind answering
That's
anyway,
okay.
how much money did it initially take you to get into this industry?
This particular strategy is a low entry level strategy, and this is something people don't realize, is people think they need to invest in property, they need thousands and thousands of pounds to buy a home, they need deposit money, whereas you don't. With serviced accommodation, you can get in between £5,000 to £10,000 max. It's took me less than £5,000 to set up this property, and it's been bringing me an income in ever since. I took a risk. I didn't know if it's going to work, but I wasn't really doing anything else at the time apart from going through all my savings. So but you less than £5,000, I'd say you need to set up the property itself. The money that you would probably need beforehand, and I'm going to be completely transparent, is to invest in yourself, to learn how to do what you're doing. Same with any job. You're going to do some training, whether that's free training, whether it's paid training. You need to invest in yourself to learn the trade that you're about to do.
Yeah. On the note of learning, how did you go about learning what you know about the property industry, real estate industry, and serviced accommodation?
Oh, that's a good question. I did a few different things. I used different various platforms. I went to free courses. I read books. I listened to different podcasts. But it's very easy to kind of have analysis paralysis, where you're getting so much information and it becomes overwhelming. So I did a 1-year mentorship with Progressive Property, Rob Moore and Mark Homer's company. So I've been working with them, which has been great for networking and meeting people in the industry that are already doing what I'm doing. Which was amazing. And then for serviced accommodation in particular, I worked with another company, Assets for Life, and I did a 3-day course with them that basically taught me everything I needed to know that got me prepared to set up what I've just done over the last year. On top of still listening to podcasts with mentors that are way ahead of me, and earning loads more money than me. I like to learn and listen for people that are where I want to be.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Way of looking at it.
I mean, I would say to people to get educated, you need to learn how you like to learn. If you're a visual person, go to seminars and things like that, watch videos. If you're an audio person, listen to podcasts. I mean, I've got so much into listening to podcasts now because it's very personal. And, you can just take those people with you wherever you are, whether you're running, whether you're in the bath, cleaning the house, whatever you're doing. But take your time, don't just jump into different things. So many people jump into the shiny penny syndrome, where you hear this amazing course that's going on with this amazing trainer. If I could do it all again, I would probably speak to people that have already done their training, find out who they did it with, what success they got from it, look at reviews and just, really do my due diligence. But I'm really happy with who I trained with, the different people, because, they're way ahead in their fields. And I've learned a lot from all of the people I've learned from.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big fan of Rob Moore. I know you recommended him to me when we first spoke, actually.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
okay, cool. Thank you for that. Next question then. So, as you mentioned, you offer temporary luxury homes for travelers up to 6 months. And using the term luxury, especially obviously with property, can put a lot of pressure on brands to kind of deliver certain standards and certain levels of quality.
Yeah.
What what steps do you take within your properties and within your life potentially to meet this standard and differentiate your properties from a standard home?
Oof. Okay. Well, I think, like I said, from a luxury perspective, I like to put myself in the guest's shoes, and I like to stay in that property and think, what would I want as a guest in this property? And because I've stayed in hotels and I've stayed in places that just they don't cut standard. You want nice things. So I like to think of the interior design. I like colours that pop, that are bright, that are fun, that stand out. I want to make sure something as simple as having really good mattresses in the property, because you want your guests to have a really good night's sleep. And that's really, really important as well. You're not going to give your guests subpar mattresses just because they're staying away from home. They want the same experience as if they was at home in their really nice beds.
Yeah.
So things like that, good mattresses, making sure they've got their toiletries, making sure you provide things like Netflix for free, and just all these different things that make up kind of a luxury space for someone.
So it feels like you've put the time, the money, the energy into figuring out what exactly they
Yeah,
need.
yeah. So it feels like they're almost staying at home, but at a higher level,
Yeah, yeah,
if
that
that
makes a
makes
lot of sense,
sense.
to be fair.
Um,
Okay, yeah. Is there anything you would like recommend avoid doing if you're trying to build a luxury home, trying to build that luxury feel? Is there anything you'd avoid like putting in or changing about it?
um, I think it's kind of personal preference, and I think you've got to think from the guest perspective as well. It's good to keep things kind of minimalistic, because
Yeah,
luxury doesn't have to be, really bold and bolshy. It can just be clean, simple lines, modern, but just something that's really inviting and homely. So one thing that is kind of important when you're like dressing a property is try not to dress it as if it's your own home.
hmm
That's something a lot of people fall into, is that you furnish it with these plush rugs and velvet sofas and the things you would put in your own home, when that's not really needed for people that are staying away. And from a cleaner's perspective as well, to kind of try and
nightmare.
hoover a plush rug, and or if you've got pets staying, to keep things to a good standard, but it doesn't have to be to the point where you would completely do your own home. Do you know what I
Mhm.
mean? And that's something that I got stuck in that rut at first, because I like nice things in my house. So when I try and turn somebody else's house into a home for other people,
Yeah,
I kind of went down the same route. But then people were saying to me, Sasha, you don't need to do that. You don't need to provide this. You don't need to provide this, big rug type thing.
mhm.
So yeah, you just got to be careful that you are providing the service based on what your market, what your target client is basically, and what they would be
Yeah,
looking for, because they're not looking for everything.
yeah, absolutely. So don't go too far down that rabbit hole and
No,
clutter it with everything.
yeah.
Okay, yeah, cool. That makes a lot of sense. And you mentioned like having pets, and I know there's quite a few, people in the service accommodation property generally, maybe they don't allow children or they don't allow pets just because of potential damage. Do you would then allow children and pets, and does it come with like that increased risk? And if so, how do you kind of mitigate that?
Personally, I don't tend to allow pets, which is a little bit contradictory, because I love pets. I love dogs more than people themselves, but I also know what they can do to a house. So, from a business perspective, to have dogs running all over the furniture, scratching it, jumping on the beds, that is going a lot of work and a lot of money, for the cleaners, and for potentially damage and things like that. And I know that from having lots of dogs throughout my life, seeing them scratch the furniture up. This isn't furniture that's in your home. This is for people, and you've got people coming, changing maybe every week.
Yeah,
So, but that's not to say that you shouldn't have pets. I just think if you're going to maybe have a larger deposit to cover that, maybe have a higher cleaning fee to cover that. And it also depends on your area, because you've got a lot of tourist areas and beach holiday areas where people are going to have pets, because more and more people want to bring their pets with them on holiday. And to be honest, it's something I'm even considering allowing now as well, based on the past situation that we're in with the pandemic and COVID. I know people want to go away with their pets and their dogs, and especially if they can't go abroad, it's hard for people to find places with pets. So officially, my place doesn't allow pets or dogs, just because I know the sort of furniture I've got in there and I know what it'd be to mess it up. But, you know, there will be exceptions. If someone comes to me and they've got the most well-behaved dog, and I would just put prices up more with regards to damage deposit and cleaning fee. Not because, you know, I'm trying to be mean, but because I know that even if you have got the most well-behaved dog in the world, they still can cause damage, which can still cost hundreds of pounds. And with regards to children, because my contract is mainly, my market's maybe contractors, I don't really have the property set up for young children, as in stair gates and high chairs and things like that. So it's not usually a property that many children will come to, because of the area as well. There's not a great deal for children. But again, that's just where my property is. That's just what my market's about. And from a safety perspective as well, I've got stairs. So if there was a 1-year-old, there's no stair gate for them, because that's just not what the client market is catered towards for my particular units. But it's not to say that it would never be open to that. And I know lots of people do have children because that's their market, tourists, holiday makers. Do you know what I mean? So it's different for everybody.
Yeah, that makes sense. You definitely need to know who your target customer is and appeal to them. Because if you try and appeal to everybody, you won't appeal to anybody. Because like contractors, like you said, they don't want to go to a property that's just full of like baby strollers and baby gates, because it's just going to get in their way. So, and
also with pets, some people have really bad allergies. So I could let the most well-behaved, cutest dog in for the week, but then the next person staying, they could get seriously ill from being allergic to dogs, for all I know. So I've got to be very careful of that as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, then last question with this. Do you prefer, for business reasons, do you prefer long or short-term people like staying at your property?
Long-term. Anybody in service accommodation is going to say long-term, because you've got that security. You know, you've got people that are in there. You get to know them. They got somewhere to stay for the whole of their project. You've got an income coming in. Same as having like a normal 9-to-5 job employed. You get paid each month. If you've got long-term guests, then you've got that security of the income coming in, which is great because it's your business. Not everybody that books for long term, they may not always stay long term, depending if their project may change. They may have a problem with your property. So nothing's guaranteed. I would always say long term over short term, because it's peace of mind at the end of the day. It's peace of mind and it's security, but things change.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And do you find that you've actually been getting more or less long-term contracts while like COVID and lockdown has been happening?
Since COVID, I've had longer term bookings. I've been very fortunate. The hotels were closed, so there was really nowhere else for people to go. So it was a very attractive proposition. And my clients were working in the area for long periods of time. They may start for a week, but then it turns out the project is 5 months long. So I would extend them for the length of time that they're staying for. So yeah, it's been long term for me personally, which has been great. It's been a great way to get into the business. Maybe not the most realistic or normal way for some people, but I've experienced it from a high right from the off. Yeah. So now anything that happens going forward from a low perspective, if bookings start to dry up or if I get shorter term bookings, that's all going to be a learning curve for me, which is part and part of the industry as well.
Yeah. Well, it's always good to have a challenge, always good to start learning something new. So
yeah, nothing's going to be perfect in business. There's always going to be things and obstacles and challenges thrown in your way. But I knew that when I started, and I like a challenge. So I wouldn't have got into it if I thought everything was going to be roses and fairies and, no problems whatsoever. You deal with things as they come up.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I wish you the best of luck with the rest of that then.
Thanks.
Okay, cool. Next question then. You are a big fan of networking. After all, we did meet for a mutual Facebook group, the High Net Connect, I believe it's now called.
We
Fantastic
did
group.
indeed.
Everybody
Yeah.
should definitely try and join that.
Oh, they're awesome. I love that group.
How do you prepare to make sure that you make a great first impression, whether you're having a Zoom meeting for the first time or an in-person meeting or just like a networking event?
Oh, okay. I guess it depends what the event is. It's important to go to any event with a purpose, whether it's a Zoom meeting, whether it's a networking event in person. So it's important to know why you're going, whether you're going just to mingle and meet some new people, whether you want to increase reach for your business or your brand or, just in general. So again, I go back to saying just be yourself. Don't try to pretend to be somebody that you're not, because first impressions count. I mean, it takes, 10 to 30 seconds for somebody to make a first impression of you. And people aren't silly, like I said, they can see if you're being fake towards them. And one thing I say with first impressions when you're first meeting people is listen to the person that you're talking to. Don't talk about yourself don't ramble. Find out their story, see if there's somebody you can really connect with, if there's some maybe potential for collaboration, if there's somebody you might want to work with later down the line, somebody that you think would make a really good friend, if you've got things in common. So shut up and listen to the people that you're connecting with, basically. I think it's important to make sure you're well presented and look good, whether that's smart, whether that's casual, whatever your personal style is. Because if you look good, you feel good. And if you feel good, you're going to perform better. You're going to feel better in front of that person. And I think it's just as important to present yourself well on Zoom now more than ever, especially as we're kind of going into that huge digital age since COVID. I mean, some people I think prefer it because you haven't got to travel miles away. If there's a meeting in the north or whatever, you can just jump on your camera. So first impressions, I think, are just as important online as they are in person these days. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. The first impression, no matter where you are, even if it's on the phone, you can't physically see someone, but
No.
they can hear from your tonality, the way you're speaking.
Yeah,
Whether
definitely.
you're being insincere. So absolutely, it's like, I believe it's actually in the first like quarter of a second when somebody can see you, when they're looking at your body language, they make an unconscious, subconscious, even
a quarter of a second.
Quarter of a second, they make that first impression in their heads.
That is a very small amount of time.
Now, obviously, you have a few more seconds then to kind of make a good second impression, and you can then shift that first impression. But it's why if you walk down the street and you see somebody with their hood up and maybe they've got like their mask on as well and they're all dressed in black, maybe you'll walk on the other side of the road if it's later.
Sadly, probably, yeah.
Exactly. Like not everybody. Obviously, using that example, you can kind of see why, but maybe you don't think that consciously when you're walking down the street, but then subconsciously in that quarter of a second you glance over, you're making that decision to cross the road, or you're making that decision of this is somebody I can do business with or not do business with. So and this is why suits are so powerful. Doesn't necessarily mean a suit, but just a power suit, something that makes you feel confident, happy, like you just kind of said.
It's a known statistic that blue is a power color.
Yes.
If you want to make a good first impression, like a nice royal blue. This is my favorite color anyway, but blue, if for a woman, a blue dress, for a man, a blue suit. I don't know if you've noticed with different videos and different events, there is a lot of people that wear blue, and that's a conscious decision because generally, I know it might sound silly, but generally people that wear a blue suit or a blue dress, people buy from more, people trust more, and people are more successful.
Absolutely. Blue is associated with worthiness. So that's why, if you see politicians, they'll either generally wear a red tie or a blue tie.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay, cool. So do you then prefer in-person meetings or do you prefer Zoom calls?
I think now I think I prefer to meet people in person, because obviously recording this podcast, we're, mid 2021, we've just had a pandemic, so we've been on Zoom a long time, which has been great, but you really can't get that proper connection unless you're face to face with someone, I personally feel. And I miss that connection. Being from an entertainment background, working with loads of people all the time, and being in the space of a lot of people, to just being by myself in my house, with my computer, talking to people has been great. But from a personal perspective, I like meeting people. And I miss it, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too. I personally find when you're meeting in person, it's so easy to match energy. And obviously, matching energy is kind of key to building rapport. Whereas on a computer, it's like, what am I going to match my energy with? A screen? Like, it's very, very difficult to do. So you kind of have to think about it more.
Definitely. It is hard. It is harder to exude that type of energy on a Zoom call. I mean, personally, I think I'm the same on Zoom or in person. I have the same kind of energy. That's just how I am. But everyone's different, and some people just don't like sitting in front of their computer in their living room. It's just not the same feel, and you don't always get the same results either. I think if you're on a Zoom call, especially if there's lots and lots of people, sometimes that can be. I think there's something being said for Zoom calls where you've got tons of people like on a mastermind, and you really can't get to know those people. You might be in breakout rooms and things like that. But if you're in person and you've got that same amount of people, then you can network, you can walk around, you can talk to all these people and make instant decisions, whether you like them or not, whether you want to stay connected. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Because especially with the first impressions element, if you're on a Zoom call, for all you know, the person could be sitting in their pajama bottoms, and it's like, are they making that good impression? You don't know.
Do you know what, though? I'm not going to lie. That is one thing that I have enjoyed. And I think many people have been in a lot less than their pajama bottoms and like a nice suit or a nice blouse.
I've been guilty of it a few times.
Because you can.
Yeah.
And especially with Clubhouse. I mean, oh my goodness, you don't even have to wear anything with Clubhouse. You just rock up, turn it on. That's like a whole new revelation, which I absolutely loved.
Yeah. I know a few people that use Clubhouse while they were in the bath, while they were just chilling in bed. So,
it's the easiest way to communicate, isn't it? Really, there's no airs and graces. You haven't got to get dressed. You haven't got to do your makeup. You haven't got to do your hair. I loved it for a long, long time. But now I'm kind of going back into, I miss meeting people face to face. I miss making friends. I miss connecting,
Yeah, same. I would rather have to put the effort in and then be able to meet people in person. It's definitely worth the sacrifice, if you want to call it a sacrifice.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely, 100%.
Do you think then that we're going to see a transition back to more in-person meetings post-COVID, or do you think it's going to continue with this trend of more Zoom meetings, more remote working potentially?
I think that times have changed now, and I would like to think that we will go back to the networking. But sadly, I think the majority now is going to be online. I think businesses are going to be trying to stay online because it saves money. It saves money on hiring out space, on overheads and things like that. So it could go any way. I feel it could go either way. And I think in some respects it's great, because I know in the winter time, if there's a networking event in London and I don't want to go through the weather, I don't want to get a train. If there was the opportunity to do it online like a year ago, 100% I would have done that. 100%. So I think it depends on, whether it's summer, whether it's winter, if you've just got home from work. I think it can really, really appeal to some people, especially if you're in the south and there's a huge event going on in the north that you just cannot get to, or it's going to be super expensive, but you've got the option to go online and pay a couple of £100, or even if it's for free. That is so appealing to people, myself included, but I will always go for in person over online as much as I can now going forward.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you. And I think generally we are seeing a massive trend towards convenience. It's why things like Uber exist. It's why Airbnb exists.
Definitely.
It's that kind of trend we're going towards. So.
Yeah, definitely. And it'll be interesting to see how that pans out, actually. It will be interesting to see, because I know certain events that I'm part of, with the property space, they're slowly bringing back in-person events, but still not quite the same. Still a social distancing. You can still only be around a certain amount of people at a certain table. You can't stand up and network. That's the whole point of going to a networking event.
That flexibility,
So if that continues, then I think there will be less and less people at these events, because it takes away the reason you're going.
Yeah, absolutely agree.
So
Okay, fantastic.
yeah, it'll be interesting to see, won't it?
It will be, yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing where it'll go. But like I say, like I'm kind of like you. I hope it moves back more towards in-person meetings, but
Oh
whether
yeah,
it will or not, we'll have to see.
I can't wait to go out and network again with people. Not even networking, just seeing
Just
people
seeing people,
in person, you know, friends, family, people that you, I think one thing that is really is exciting is the people you've been speaking to online for over a year, on Zoom calls, in WhatsApp groups, you know, in masterminds with
finally
different,
meeting them.
finally getting to meet. Yeah, because you've built these friendships up through this digital space, through online networking. So to actually be able to meet with people real life is great. And I'm looking forward to it, because I've met loads and loads of people with different property masterminds and different mentorships that I've been part of. And there's so many people I'm looking forward to seeing all up and down the country.
Yeah, fantastic. You've got a lot of traveling to do then.
Yeah, and luckily I'm in a position where I work for myself, so I'm training myself to work remotely. And that's another great thing about doing what I do, is that I run my own schedule. You know, I run my own life. So as long as I'm doing what I need to do and I'm doing it well, then I can travel and I can go and do these things, because I'm not tied down.
And if anybody wants to visit you, they could always stay in your accommodations and you can teleprofit.
Exactly.
Okay, fantastic. So moving on now to your dating life, and I know you were kind of dreading these last couple of questions. So you're obviously a very busy person. I know you said obviously you can kind of select when you work, when you don't. You've got a pretty free schedule, but you do work a lot and you do work very hard.
I do, yeah. I mean, I do have a free schedule, but I work for different companies and different things, so I'm still busy.
Yeah. Like you say, obviously you're running your serviced accommodations, you're doing freelance work, you're networking with people. You've got a lot on your plate.
Yeah.
And well, many potential partners, like from my experience, obviously, I assume from your experience, aren't necessarily compatible with such a busy lifestyle or such an ambitious career path. So when you're dating or dating currently, what are some big red flags that you kind of look out for in potential partners that signify to you that somebody isn't right for this kind of lifestyle or schedule?
I think there's one main red flag, and that is neediness and clinginess. So if I'm chatting to someone that I don't know, that I'm potentially looking to meet or date, and you know, you start off with texting, but then if I don't message back, they'll message straight away, "Are you busy? What's wrong? Why are you not getting back to me?" Even though I've said, you know, I've got a business and I do this and this, they don't get it, and they just think of themselves and think, oh, you know, what's wrong? Why? No, I can't deal with that. They have to respect. There has to be a respect of time, and you know, and everyone values their time. So if someone's not a priority to me, if I don't know them yet, they're not going to be the first people that I go back to in messaging. And if I do like them and I do want to connect, then I will message, but it's still going to be when I'm free. And I have had instances in the past where I've connected with somebody and then we've gone to WhatsApp and started chatting, and initially they're pretty cool and collected and it's just nice and easy back and forth. But then if I get really busy and I just genuinely don't have time to get back to someone or arrange a date in a short amount of time, then I get a succession of messages, you know, I really want to meet you, and why are you not getting back to me? And are you busy? And no, can't do it. Too much. So yeah, bye Felicia. Computer says no.
Have you found that this neediness, as you've kind of got older, has become less common or more common?
More common.
More. That's interesting.
I think, yeah. It's interesting. It is interesting, actually. I think maybe because of what I do, and because I run my own business and I'm successful in running my own business and I do different things, it interests people. And I don't always tell people how much I do. But But I guess it's also an attraction thing as well. If someone's really attracted to you, then it's normal. They're going to message you. You know, they're going to want to stay in contact and have that connection and try and arrange something. But I guess bored quite easily. I lose interest quite easily. So if someone doesn't keep my interest for long enough, I mean, I like someone to have the same ambition level as me, to be entrepreneurial, to know where they're going in life and what they want to do. And that sort of person is going to keep me interested in wanting to message them. Do you know, wanting to stay in contact, not necessarily being needy, but showing an interest, and maybe making a connection sooner, rather than if they're just not really doing much during the day and they've got all the time in the world to message. And to be fair, when I was on ships, it was different because everybody was working their ass off. They were so busy. No one had time for messages. Everyone knew when they were going to meet up at the end of the day after work at 12 o'clock. So being on land and being on ships anyway is very different when it comes to connecting with people. But in regards to your question, the neediness has pretty much stayed the same through my life. That could be my problem. It could be something I'm doing wrong. Maybe I'm giving out those signals to be needy. I don't know. I try not to.
Oh, interesting. I thought it would decrease as age went on because, I mean, like, obviously I'm like 21 now, and like through my dating life, I've met a lot of needy women, and like even those that I haven't been interested in dating. And then in other relationships, I see a lot of needy women, needy men. It's just everywhere. And I assumed that as you get older, it would kind of then phase out, and everybody would kind of mellow out a bit as you get a job and other responsibilities. But well, it's not looking very hopeful. If it's still the
But
same.
you're very mature for your age. Like when you said you were 21, I was like, oh my goodness, you're very mature for your years. Not all 21-year-olds are like that. And men, how to put this without being condescending or anything, men seem to stay in a state of mind, whether they're 20 or whether they're 30. There's not a great deal that tends to change when it comes to connecting with women. You know, there's always going to be that urge, there's always going to be that need. That doesn't really differ much as they get older, is what I've noticed. Maybe it probably gets worse.
Well, I suppose especially if they're in a position where maybe they've been longer without having a successful relationship.
Yeah, exactly. And not like desperate for one, but maybe they've really got that real urge to find someone that they really want to like settle down with and have a family. And if that's not happened in their life yet, or they've had a lot of unsuccessful relationships, then they're going to feel like almost like time's running out. I'm getting to this age where I need to meet someone, I need to have kids, I need to have a family. So that need can almost be, accentuated, if, as it were.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So what would your advice be then for a man or a woman, anybody who is looking to date somebody successful, somebody ambitious, somebody driven, somebody busy?
Just chill out. Just chill that out. I think, you need to try different things. Sometimes you'll date someone and what I find is you can date someone that are not right for you in the slightest. I've dated several people that are not right for me in the slightest for different reasons, but then you're attracted to the same sort of people, whether it's because of how they've treated you or whether you just like, that excitement. Whatever it is they give you, you're attracted to those people. So I think it's important to make a change. If something hasn't been working, then try something different. And if you're looking, I think if you're looking for someone successful, you need to be that high quality person within yourself. You need to love yourself first. You need to respect yourself first to attract that man or woman into your life that's right for you. And I think once you are whole as a person and you know where you're going and you know what you're worth, you know what your value is, you're going to attract that partner into your life.
Yeah, absolutely. We're back to that. You attract what you are, basically. Yes, so if you're high quality, you look after yourself, you've got ambition, you're going to attract that kind of person.
Yeah. And on the other side, I know women that are very successful, very beautiful, but they don't value themselves enough. So when they meet men, those men don't value them either. No matter what they're doing, no matter how successful, no matter how much money they're earning, if they have little value of themselves, that's going to come across to the guys, and they're going to treat them as such.
Yeah, absolutely. If you don't love yourself, if you don't value yourself, how is anybody else going to?
Exactly.
Nobody is going to value yourself more than you.
No.
They're too busy valuing themselves.
Exactly. And I've learned that through experiences. Most of my experiences have been on cruise ships, which has been difficult, but it's taught me that I'm worth so much more than what I've been subjected to with other relationships or how I've been treated. But you learn from every relationship you break up from. You learn more about that person, and you learn more about yourself, and it teaches you to be a stronger person, ready for your next encounter, next relationship.
Yeah, always learning. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, so for the entrepreneurial types out there who obviously have a very busy schedule, who maybe are in the start of their business journey and they're, putting in a lot of hours to make something work, to build a business, to build their empire, do you think, generally speaking, they should still go out dating once a week? Do you think they should just stay away from dating for the time being? Or do you think they should just wait for something to happen naturally if it does?
Oh, that's a good question. I think you need to have a balance of a business life and a personal life. So I think if you're in a place where you want to date and you want to meet someone, then there is nothing wrong with making the time to do that. Obviously, if you are setting up, I mean, for me personally, when I was setting up my business, I didn't want to concentrate on anything else. I didn't have time to give my energy or my mind space to another person to build a relationship. I was also looking after my mum at the same time, who was very, very sick. So you need to know where your priorities lie. If you're the sort of person that can balance both, then great. I don't think there's one rule for one person, another rule. I think it's different for everybody. But for me personally, I'd never built a business before. I'd always been an employee. I'd been of an employee mindset. So I didn't know any different. So when I focused on my business, I was like, okay, I need to focus on this. I haven't got time for anything else. But also, I did do it in the middle of a pandemic. So I couldn't date someone if I even wanted to, which was probably lucky, because had it not been in the middle of the pandemic, I may not have even done it at all. It may not have even happened. Everything happens for a reason. But I think if you're the sort of person that knows that you can put a time aside to build your business, whether it's a couple of hours each day, and then you still have a personal life, that can maybe accentuate how you are in your business. Because if you're dating someone and you're happy, then you're going to have more energy and feel more vibrant when you're building your business, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Whereas if you have nothing else in your life other than work, that can make you a very lonely, sad person sometimes.
Yeah, very true. Very true. It's important to have something else to actually make the work that you're doing worth it.
And I think with regards to letting things come naturally into, I think for me, it's about my interests and my hobbies. Like, I love salsa dancing and I love things like that, dancing. And, so these things that I go to anyway, I'm likely to meet people that have the same interests in me.
Yeah.
So if I meet somebody that I want to date, then great. At least I know we have something in common, rather than actively going out and looking for it, which can be an absolute minefield and very demoralizing for a lot of people, because, you're just like a ball in a china shop. You never know what you're going to knock off and where it's all going to fall apart.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, cool. So on to then the second part of my dating questions. So you obviously, as you said, you used to work on a cruise ship.
I did.
And first of all, what sort of thing were you doing on this during this time? I know you said you were like a singer, entertainer, dancer, and then you moved into like luxury shopping. Is that kind of what you spent most of your days doing?
Yes, so I was an entertainer for many years, singer, dancer. It was only the last 3 years that I went into the luxury brand space, and that was a much higher level of what I was previously doing. Like, I was in my early 20s, I was having fun, but I was building up to be a singer, and obviously that all kind of changed when I came home.
Yeah.
And then the opportunity came up to do this presenting, being a TV presenter on ships in luxury brands. And I just thought I could not think of anything better that I'd want to do right now. And it just turned out to be incredible. I learned so much from the company that I worked with, Onboard Media. The people around me were so influential, and just amazing human beings. And I think if I hadn't have had that experience, it wouldn't have given me the confidence, the knowledge to do all the things that I've done since I came back from ships, even though my plan hadn't been to come back for a while.
Fantastic.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So what were you kind of doing then when you weren't working on those cruise ships? How were you spending your free time?
What free time? I'm not going to lie. I didn't get a lot of free time. When I was in entertainment, it was different. Okay, back years and years ago, when I was an entertainer in a team, I had a lot more free time. So I would go to the beach, and we'd go on day trips. I went skydiving in Honolulu, and I swam with the dolphins in Mexico. I had some amazing experiences between 2008 and I guess 2011, 12, something like that. When I went as a shopping brand presenter, I was working all the time because I was working on sea days, I was working on port days. They were the days that I would take my guests shopping. I was their VIP shopping consultant, but I was earning good money. And I'd seen a lot of the world by the time I got to that place. So I wasn't doing it for the world anymore. I was doing it to earn money, to save, so I could potentially look after my mum if I needed to come back at any point, which I did, sadly. So at that point, I didn't really have free time. The only free time would be when I finished work, which could be 12 in the morning, 1 in the morning. But then there was a crew bar that all the crew went to, which was amazing. I could do like a whole podcast on that. And that's what we did in our free time. It wasn't like on land. We had one place to go, which was the crew bar. Generally, passenger areas we weren't usually allowed in, depending on our job. I had a high status job, so I was allowed wherever I wanted to go. But generally, as a rule, crew members went to the crew bar after work to have some drinks. That's where we partied. On deck, there'd be parties. It was just a lot of drinking and partying, if I'm going to be honest.
That's quite nice.
It was a great lifestyle. I'm not going to lie. It was but it was a bubble. It was a safe bubble. And when you come home, that bubble is burst.
Yeah.
And you never quite get it out of your system.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
So obviously during this time, I assume you were still dating. I know you mentioned that you were kind of dating on the cruise ships more than you are now. So what was kind of the key differences then between dating when you were on a cruise ship and dating now when you're obviously back on land?
Dating on cruise ships is very different to dating on land because, like I said, you're in this bubble, and one of the differences is when you're on a cruise ship, you see the same sort of people all the time. Yeah. So you might meet somebody in your line of work, in your department, and even though the ships are huge, the crew community is quite tight-knit and small. So if you're dating somebody, if you're going out with somebody on a ship and maybe you don't want to see them again, there's no chance of that. They're going to be around. You're going to see them the next day, most likely. So you have to make a decision pretty quick and decide, to be friends or, whatever it's going to be. On land, you've got the whole cat and mouse chase. You meet someone, then you go back and forth with the texting, and then you might go out, and then you wait another 3 days for them to contact you before it's so drawn out. Yeah. It's drawn out, and it bores me a little bit because that's just not what I'm used to anymore, because it's such a tight-knit community. A relationship on a ship, say, I don't know, 3 weeks can feel like 3 months on land. That's what it's like, because you're generally with that person a lot. You see them all the time. And I actually prefer it. I prefer dating on ships because you get to know someone a lot quicker. You get to form a friendship with somebody a lot quicker, which then you can decide if you want to go into a relationship with them. Whereas on land, it's a little bit different. When you're dating generally for that reason, to get into a relationship. And I think a lot of people forget you need to be friends first. You need to have a connection and grow that connection, because most relationships that actually work out, they were friends first. They had something in common before they got into a relationship. You know, like on ships, you might get into a relationship for 6 months, but you were never friends first. And then your contract finishes and either the relationship ends, or you try and make it work by going on the same ship as each other, or you come back on land together and try and make it work. It's just trying to make a relationship work on ships is a lot harder. It's easier to get into a relationship, and it's much, much easier to get to know someone at a quicker level, but it's easier to withhold a relationship on land because generally they're in the same country as you, and you can see them whenever you want. So yeah, I'd say they are the basic differences, but big differences is it's easier to get to know somebody on a ship and get that relationship formed, but not always easy to sustain it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's something really important that you touched on, is you need to have things in common outside of the relationship.
Yeah.
Because there are so many people like on land that get in a relationship and the only thing they have in common is that they both want to be in a relationship. And it's like, okay, well, you have that in common with literally anybody who wants to date. So it's not really something you have in common, is it? It's just the state that you're in that point.
And so, sometimes on ships, people get into a relationship for the sake of it, just purely because they work so hard. I mean, don't get me wrong, we have a lot of fun, but we work so hard on ships. So it's like, what else is there to do? You need that side of your life to keep you sane, to keep you enjoying yourself away from work. So yeah, it's like I said, I could do a whole episode on cruise ships and dating and that sort of thing. It's a minefield, but it's interesting and it's fun.
Yeah, absolutely, sounds it. So how does dates actually work on a cruise ship then? Because obviously you can't take them to a restaurant.
Well, you don't really have dates as such. I mean, okay, if so for example, when I was in entertainment, I met someone on my first ship on my first day. We were together 3 years because we were in the same team, so we worked together. And if we had days off, it would be going to the local bar, because you go to a port, the first thing you want to find is good Wi-Fi, food and drink. So it'd always be about going to a bar. On a ship, there are restaurants because the passengers obviously have to eat. So occasionally we can book to go to a restaurant. It's not easy, but you can do it depending on what job you have. But really, it's more just kind of hooking up and staying together for that period of time. It's dating isn't really a thing. Like, you haven't got all these places to go to like you do on land. You can't go into London. Like, you can meet in that, we call it the crew mess, is where we go and eat. You can meet in the crew mess to have your dinner or have some lunch, or you can meet mostly you would meet in the crew bar and have a couple of drinks. There's a lot of parties that happen on ships, a lot of events that happen on ships. That's how you meet people, and that's where your dates tend to happen, or just in your cabin. A lot of people would just have cheese and wine nights in their cabin. That would be classed as a date, I suppose, but it's not the normal thing you do at home. You go out. So like I wouldn't really class dating on ships as dating.
It's just a different world.
It's a different world completely, but it's an amazing world, and one that I wouldn't have changed for the world. But it's taught me a lot about relationships.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Okay, cool. And is there ever going to be a day that you go back onto ships in the future?
Do you know what? Ships has been a huge part of my life, and I loved what I did, and I would never say never. I was invited back about a month ago, doing what I did previously, but it's not the right time for me to go back now. There's still a lot more I want to do in my business and my career, but never say never. There is a chance I would go back at some point to do something, maybe not for the amount of time that I did before, maybe not for 6 to 8 months. I don't think that would be feasible or viable, considering I've got a business now. The one thing I've never done, I've never been on a cruise ship as a passenger or as a guest. So I would
Interesting.
love to go back on for holiday. So
Yeah.
yeah, I guess I would go back
Okay,
on
interesting then.
holiday.
It's interesting that you've never been on one as a guest, but obviously you
No,
spent a lot of your life on a cruise ship.
yeah,
So
yeah, I've been very lucky. Yeah, I've seen a lot of the world, and I've seen it from a crew member perspective, but
yeah,
I would love to see it from the other side.
yeah, fantastic. Well, hopefully you get to go out there again soon then.
Yes, I hope so too.
Fantastic. Okay, so that pretty much wraps up all of my questions. So do you have anything else
Okay.
you wanted to talk about or any other questions you wanted to ask or anything?
No, not really. It's been awesome chatting to you. I've really enjoyed our talk. I hope it's been of value to you and to your listeners and some entertainment as well.
Absolutely.
Um, but no, I've really, really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. And where can all my viewers find you on social media or your website?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So the best place to probably find me is on Instagram under Sasha Starlight 79. I'm actually going to be giving away a freebie for those that are interested on how to invest in property with less than £5,000 without owning your own property. So if anybody's interested, all you need to do is DM me on my Instagram page, Sasha Starlight 79, and just say Sasha Gift in the DM,
Such a
and
gift.
then I will get that over to people that want it. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So as you just heard there, make sure that you follow Sasha at Sasha Starlight 79. Hopefully I've got that right.
Yeah.
And DM her Sasha gift to get that freebie. I will obviously put all of these details down in the description as well for easy finding.
Yeah, and most of my information is on Instagram anyway, with regards to where people can connect with me and how, depending on how they want to connect. So yeah, it's all there.
Okay, fantastic. So yeah, I'll make sure that's all in the description as well. And yeah, thank you again so much for coming on today, Sasha. It's been absolutely fantastic talking to you.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. I love your podcast, the Regal podcast. So
Thank you.
no, I've really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you. And if anybody watching has any questions for myself or Sasha, feel free to get in touch or, of course, send us an email at theregalpodcast@gmail.com. So thank you for watching. I've been Jordan and I've been talking to Sasha.
Thank you.